My God, Bones. What have I done? What have I done? This is my sim rig. Now, I'm a little perplexed as to what to do with this thing exactly, but this is how it is right now. I've got a Dell Precision Tower that I would rather be using for Proxmox because of its cores running games, but it's a 6-core CPU with a 6500 XT. So this is basically my wife's old GPU, and this tower I got for $30, came with the RAM too. And it's a solid system. It doesn't have anything in particular that would draw me to using this in particular. I'd actually rather use my Proxmox machine, another video sometime. But we're going to try to keep this part brief because I know for a fact the audio with this Brio is not particularly good. But I like this setup. I've got a wireless keyboard when I need it. I have my wheel set up. And if I go ahead and open Oversteer, there we go, G29 Racing Wheel, load profile Daytona Arcade. So what's cool about this application is this is a 960 degree steering wheel. This is a Logitech G29 for a PS3, PS4. Well, it goes further around. So if I actually set this back to, not that, the profile back to Daytona, it will go all the way around. However, for something like Daytona USA, I don't want to be able to go past here or here. Set it at 270. I don't have many games that do want this, but if you need it for like a trucking game, you can just have your full range of 900 degrees if you really want to. I would rather load Daytona and set it to 270 degrees. Apply. So yeah, we got that. This should work as is now. And yeah, you can see we can put it in the shifter boot. I've got all 6 speeds, including reverse. The paddles, all the buttons and everything work. It's a decent tool for that aspect. I'm going to minimize this, and we're going to try to load a game. Now we're going to see what the audio does here. For now, I'm just going to run this like this. But this is how I would generally play on the system. We'll go to video and make sure, yeah, it's set to custom. Let's go away. One key thing to note: switching to full screen crashes the emulator, which is unfortunate.
Please select a race course.
Let's go take a lap.
Beginner. Please choose manual or automatic transmission.
Gentlemen, start your engine. And they're underway.
So what I was going to explain on the PC over there before my microphone decided to blow itself up is there's more to this than just, ooh, gamer plays gamer game. Because I know a few people mentioned in the creation of this, they were like, oh God, you're going to do gaming content? Why? Look, I'm a gamer. I just am. The fact I use Linux was kind of an afterthought when I did that. So I feel like I need to give a little context here. I have been through a lot to try and get Daytona at home. It's not just Daytona. I have stuff all the way back to things like American Truck Simulator, Forza Horizon, the original Midtown Madness, many other games, even NASCAR. I was a big NASCAR kid. Not so much anymore. But the kicker here was pretty straightforward. I have played games for a long time. And, you know, growing up, if I go into this, I know some people that I know are watching. Some of you can understand this. Some of you cannot. I didn't grow up in a rich household. I don't think that's an unfair thing to say. It's fair to say I had it better than most, at least to some degree. There was a time in my life where, much like my brother would corroborate? He would agree that we didn't necessarily know when the next meal was going to be. We didn't know if we're going to have power. Some of that was just how life was at the time. You know, when you go through a rough time where, you know, one parent's trying to make it work and the other one is down on his back and family issues going on, and we went through some rough years. So we didn't have some of the things that we have here. In fact, I'll show you one other thing. This is sentimental to me. In fact, this wasn't even part of the video script, so fuck me from the future. This is a Nintendo Game Boy Color. This is the Game Boy Color that my brother and I shared growing up, because that was the one thing my parents put out for at the time, was to be able to have one of these that they could hand to us and we could be entertained for a little while. We played it on trips. The buttons on this thing are absolutely, I mean, this is absolutely just killed. The buttons are wore out and mushy, and it does still work, for the record. But it is a Model 1 Game Boy Color. It's not the Pikachu version, but it is the yellow version. I shared that Game Boy with Pokemon Blue with my brother. And I can tell you that if it wasn't for that experience, he and I probably wouldn't be as close to these days as we were then. We certainly fought over this thing. He would agree with that. And this thing's seen a lot in its day. I feel the same way about Daytona. Growing up, people don't understand when you don't have Game Boys, and like, we didn't have the internet. We didn't have the internet to just go out and entertain ourselves with YouTube. I mean, hell, we barely had a dial-up connection, assuming that the bill got paid. So in that regard, there was a place that we did get to go, and this was more so when things got better, but there was a place we got to go that I think really drove in why this means so much to me in my life, and why this is less of a tech piece of showing my cool shit, which I do love showing my cool shit, and subscribe if you like my cool shit, because I'm going to keep showing it off. But we also got to look at this and the other aspect. What was something that our parents got to grow up with that isn't a thing anymore? The arcade. My father grew up in the heyday of the arcade. And plunking coins, you know, to play your Donkey Kong or whatever. That was a cool thing back then. Well, one of the first years we got to go on vacation after a few, we went to this place that unfortunately is not nearly what it used to be. It's called Dave & Buster's. If you've ever been to Dave & Buster's, especially in many, many moons ago, it was cool. It was the children to adult arcade. we had crap like the Star Trek Voyager arcade game with the blasters. We had the Blazing Angels for flight sim stuff. They had Turok. I remember they had genuinely had Turok. All the way to Mario Kart. I think they had one, Raising Hell one, which was some really weird kart racing game where you had to yank the crank, as they put it, which is just so suggestive these days.
Oh my.
And then the one thing that stood out to me as a kid, Daytona. Daytona is just amazing. It is flashing lights. It is high-speed action. It requires skill. Like, it genuinely requires skill. And you look at that easy track and go, oh, well, that's not that hard. Try it for yourself. Now, there's a few different ports of the game that do exist out there. And I have to admit, the last time that I truly got to play Daytona in its full glory was in some random cabinet. The best version of Daytona was, we went to a place in, I believe it was Cleveland, Ohio, at the Dave & Buster's back in the day, and they had a 12, I believe it was a 12 or a 16, I believe it was a 12 wide bank of Daytonas. These were all hooked up over to each other. It's like a local LAN thing. So it was 12 machines, 12 wide multiplayer, 12 people 11 other people you've never met before. Walk right up and go, all right, I'm going to bash your door in. Best experience in my life. Was so much fun. We were there for hours. We thought they were going to kick us out. But all of those machines have all but disappeared from the world. I used to be able to go to a local mall, and there is one now that you can pay like $15 to get in and play as much as you want. It's not in a good part of town. I don't really like going over there. And that's hard because that's one of the last opportunities that I can find. The other mall in another town that I drive through for work has one, or had one for a number of years. It's gone. And so now we're just down to what? Sega's never gone through and re-released the game again. It's not on a PC, even though the arcade cabinets are just PCs. It's annoying. I mean, there was the arcade on the Model 2. There are Model 3 stuff. There's the Sega Saturn. There were actually 2 Sega Saturn versions. There's the Dreamcast, which also had 2 versions. 1996, we got a Windows port, which is honestly quite terrible because it's based on the worst version of the game. And the version that I both own on PS3, PSN, and Xbox 360 Arcade, as well as I play it emulated on my Steam Deck and other platforms. The 360 and PSN versions of the game, I typically emulate the PlayStation version when I can. And I have a PS3 hooked up over there. I have a KVM hooked up to it that allows me to switch between multiple sources. And that allows me to switch to the PS3 when I want to play the PS3 version. Or I can play the old AM2 version. Or there was a leak here a few years back. I won't get into it because Sega took a bunch of sites down for it. They accidentally published the entire game of the Daytona 3, which I think is the current Sega Racing Classic that they put in the arcades. They just accidentally published the whole game to a public page, and so everybody has a copy of it now. They should just finalize that PC port and ship it. But anyway, this is why the sim rig. Now, I'll admit, I used to just have a regular old steering wheel. In fact, a buddy of mine used to have my Logitech Momo steering wheel, which came all the way back from, brace yourself, Circuit City. Circuit City clearance, baby. We got it for an absolute smoking deal when Circuit City was going out of town. And it was great. I think we also had not a plasma TV. We had a flat screen TV that my father bought. It was like a $2,500 TV that we got for like $500 that day. The wheels, I think Dad spent like $100 to $200 max on those. Like, it might have even been less than that. I could be insane. Smoking deals for everything, and we cleared out with a bunch of stuff. I never went and did a sim rig. I've always wanted one. I want my own Daytona cabinet, if we're being honest. Those are $10,000 to $12,000. I hate it. I'm much better off building my own from scratch and just emulating it. Even if I just stick that PS3 in a, cardboard enclosure, it's good enough for me, to be honest. I'm not really a purist, but I would love to have that kind of racing experience. The big things that we came around to was my wife really wanted to see me make this happen. To do that meant we had to make some compromises. Notably, so first it's got to play the games I want to play. I didn't want to break the budget. It needs to accommodate my existing wheel. I got this at Micro Center at my bachelor party. Yes, I'm nerdy like that. My bachelor party was at Micro Center. Deal with it. No strippers and coke here. We just went straight for Micro Center. I had an existing G29 from that experience, and I wanted to reuse that because I didn't want to waste money. I'm not somebody who likes wasting money. Even though I just did, and that'll be a longer rant video. And with that in mind, the setup here is actually very cost effective. So at this setup, I do have a KVM that's my old KVM. I could include the cost if you guys want. It was like $50 back when I bought it, but that was like 5 years ago. I just had it lying around, so I'll use it. I could just move USBs back and forth, so that's why I didn't include it in the price. I have the Precision Tower, which legitimately was $30 at a Goodwill. A buddy of mine found it. Even at 16 gigs of RAM. The graphics card I already had was my wife's old graphics card. It was a 6500 XT. I ended up swapping her for an RX 580 because this thing's cooling is ass tier. And trying to cool this tier of a card was just a no-go. But 6500 XT doesn't need cooling, turns out, or very little. Works pretty well in here. That was $80 total. I had to buy an SSD. The TV that I was playing on with the very interesting resolution, as you saw, it's like 1360 by 768. I don't know what they were thinking. That was free. That was my parents' old TV. TV stand, also free. This is all largely because of people that I knew at the time. Had a TV stand, needed rid of it. I just took it from them. The sim racing stand itself, that you didn't really get to see, I have some photos I'll show of it. That was like $75, and that folds away. And that was one of the key other points, is I need to be able to fold it up and out of the way, or even just take it down and not be in the way. The PlayStation 3 I spent $10 on. It could run this whole charade. I just wanted to be able to use my shifter boot for games that would support it, and the PS3 doesn't support that. The PS4 might. I need to look into how the PSN arcade games work. If a PS4 would in fact use the shifter boot and run on that version of the game, I'll just replace it all with a PS4. But I don't think it does. And then finally, I have a webcam. You don't really need that, but it exists. So I'm in for like $150 in this thing, and that's really dirt. And the games I already own. I even have boxed copies of some of them. So I love this thing. And the important bit is now I have a sim rig. I can play any racing games I want. I can do whatever I want, and it's great. Now, there are some downsides to this. I have multiple machines sitting over here. I have a Windows 7 machine. I haven't been using it, but I do have one. It's kind of clunky. So one of the things is, you see my chair that I'm sitting in. Well, you can't because I suck at life. This chair has to roll over there. So that's one of the reasons why I have Discord installed over there. So I can roll over, game, come back over here, do work. I can't do both. 2, I have a whole PC set up just for this purpose. Again, I would like to take that precision and use it where it's actually useful, but I don't know how to do that. With that, though, I'm going to get out of your hair. I hope you guys enjoyed. This one was a long time coming. I do apologize for that. Life just has a way of getting in the way sometimes, and I really hate it. I also hate the glare coming off this light, but I had no other light source here that looked good. So if you like it, you can subscribe for more content down below. And I'm going to get out of your hair. Y'all have a great day.